This session will highlight the main components of the system, especially as they relate to student individual career and academic plans, or ICAP, and review examples of ways to get industry involved right there in the classroom. Our presenter today with this exciting topic is Mr. AJ Crowell. AJ is a career development specialist in the Career and Academic Connections Division at our state agency. AJ currently serves as the Connect2Business and OKCareerGuide coordinator. In addition to those duties, he advises K-12 and Tech Center counselors on career development and data literacy, provides career and workforce development technical assistance and professional development. He serves as a liaison for entities involved in career and workforce development and provides college and career readiness technical and professional development. Welcome, AJ.
Thank you, Kara. You must have gotten some of that off of our website. I generally send like a one-sentence bio of, hey, I'm AJ and I work for Career Tech.
Well, that was
That's fabulous.
No.
That's great. Well, thank you everybody for joining and sticking it through. I'm honored to be at the bookend of today's session. So I will tell you that I'm going to ask some questions as we go along. So if you all can, I know you're familiar with the chat function, surely by now, but just as we go along, I'm going to ask a question. And I want to start off with learning about what you know about OKCareerGuide. So if you could, we'll do the old 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you could give me a 1 in the chat, if this is kind of like your first time hearing about OKCareerGuide or seeing a training on it. A 3 would be someone who has certainly seen the training, maybe even used the program some in the classroom. And a 5 would be someone who could probably do the training on their own. Okay, so I see that a lot of us are in the 1 to 3 range. Of course, Nate, one of my co-trainers, put a 10. So that's great. All right, fantastic. Well, let's dive in and we'll find out how wonky this is going to get whenever I hit present. I got to keep a close eye on what the screen decides to share. Are you seeing the traditional PowerPoint or are you seeing the speaker view? Looks like, I think you're seeing the traditional PowerPoint.
Speaker view.
Oh, you're seeing speaker view. All right, see, I thought that might happen. Okay, let me swap displays. All right, did that help? Yes, okay, I'm getting a head nod. Fantastic. All right. I also try to keep a close eye on what the camera does. One of these days, one time I was doing a presentation back in May, and I was using my standing desk. And when I went to go change from the presentation mode to let's go into the website mode, the camera decided to change from the webcam that I have on top of my monitor to the lower laptop camera. And that was a day that I wore a nice shirt and a vest and shorts. And it decided to zoom in on my midsection. I wasn't sucking in or anything. So I'm like super paranoid now of what it's showing. So I'm glad to see that there's quite a few of you that are looking for more information about OKCareerGuide. And that's what I intend to cover today. So to start off, we have the OKCareerGuide team. There are 3 of us now that train on this kind of suite of products that we have. Again, my name's AJ Crowell. There's my contact information. We also have Latoya Miller there in the middle, and Nathan Brubaker, who has been part of many of your OEIP things so far. So just putting that at the front in case you want to grab any of that information. If you want to follow up with me or any of us and you have more questions or would like additional training or resources, just wanted to provide that information. It'll pop back up at the end as well. And I can, of course, have our wonderful facilitators share that as well. Something that doesn't get quite as much notice is that there is a helpline available Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. So if you, after this or at some point in the future, are using OKCareerGuide in your classroom and something's not going right, it's not loading, they can't get in, they're searching for something that they put in before and it's not showing up. These are the folks to call. They built the system. This client engagement team built the system. So they've got that 877 number down there. And they've also got the email. They're incredibly responsive. And I totally encourage anyone to get in touch with them if you need that on the fly help. Traditionally we're out in the field doing trainings multiple times a week, so we're just not as available. That has obviously changed a little bit. So we'll see what that looks like going forward. So I like to start off with this graphic, and you may have seen it a time or two during this this little conference, this web conference, or you may have seen it in previous presentations. But the reason I start with this is because it kind of paints the picture of where we're at in Oklahoma and where we're going. So this is a workforce gap that we have developed across the state. If we take a look at this top bar is our educational attainment for all adults in Oklahoma in 2016. So that dark blue chunk, 46%, that's the number of adults in Oklahoma with a high school diploma or less, right? And that's the percentage of adults. The next orange box, 30%, that's the number of adults with an associate's degree, a 1 or 2 year certificate or a credential that they may have earned through a tech center or some kind of skill or trade program as well. Then that light blue box is bachelor's at 16%, and the 8% at the top is those with a graduate degree. And so that is what the adults in Oklahoma had attained in 2016. So now let's skip down to the bottom bar. This bottom bar is the number of, or the total jobs that we'll have in Oklahoma by 2025. And we can see that the expectation of our workforce really changes quite dramatically. No longer do we need individuals with just a high school diploma or less. We need a lot more folks that have a 1 or 2 year certification or an associate's degree. That jumps up to 45%. And then from there on, we need those with bachelor's and master's and doctorate or terminal degrees as well. But let me paint it like this. That essentially says that in 2025, 7 out of 10 jobs in Oklahoma will need something beyond a high school diploma. So if we think about what we're getting our students ready for, this is the job market that's in front of them. And I did a presentation once, and people were saying, 2025 is just so far away. Like, what do we need to know now? And you have to realize that 2025 is the class of, it's your 7th grade. It's those that just finished the 7th grade, right? This is the job market that awaits students that just finished the 7th grade. So that kind of puts that sense of urgency on there. And it also kind of highlights the need for ICAP as well, which is going to be a part of what we're talking about. So let me move to this next slide, and let me go ahead and ask you if you could throw in the chat, which I can't seem to pull up anymore. There it is. If you could throw in the chat, again, let's do that 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. 1, I know almost nothing about ICAP. 3 is I know I've been to some ICAP trainings and I kind of understand what we're doing with it as a school. 5 could be I'm the person who wrote the plan for my school. Okay, and then choose some people like to think of ICAP as just a dirty 4-letter word, so you're welcome to think about it that way as well. Okay, so I see that we don't have a lot of knowledge about what ICAP is. So let me just share with you, ICAP stands for Individual Career and Academic Plan. It is now a graduation requirement for all those who just finished the 9th grade and lower. So our incoming or our 8th graders that are going into 9th grade next year, will be a graduation requirement for them. That class of 2025, the 7th graders who are about to go into 8th grade, going to be a graduation requirement for them as well. And it essentially has 5 components. I'd like to start by talking about how CareerGuide addresses that. So OKCareerGuide is a program that's deeply embedded in research and career awareness and career development theory. And it follows a pretty simple process. 1, we want to take assessments. We want to learn about ourselves, right? We build that awareness piece. We want to learn what are we interested in? What do we feel confident in? What's important to us in terms of the world of work? Two, we want to take that knowledge and then we want to begin exploring what careers are out there, what majors and education do I need to get that kind of a job? What kind of employers would I work for if I had that kind of a certification or degree or credential? Once we have that knowledge and that research done, we then want to build a plan for education, right? How are we going to attain that? We want to build a plan for work. So that could include things like working on soft skills, building up our resumes. It can include trying to line out a path of where we want to get a job, maybe do an internship. And then that final category is ultimately we want to find a job and be a part of the workforce. And so that translates really well to the ICAP bill or the ICAP requirements for our students now. Step one, they need to take college and career interest surveys, right? There's that exploration piece. Two, they need to write some goals that are post-secondary or workforce related or themed, right? So we want to, now that we know what we want to do, we need to write down what we plan to accomplish. That third one, intentional sequence of courses, that's basically just a plan of study. What are the things that we are going to take? What classes are we going to take that line up with what we now know about ourselves so that we're working towards those goals? The fourth one is kind of organic. We just want to measure our academic progress. So we want to monitor, am I passing the courses I need to pass? You could take AJ's example when he was in high school. I come from a family of educators, and by golly, I was not going to be a poor teacher. So I was going to be a doctor. And then I did an internship at a hospital, and then I did a job shadow at a hospital. And I also took AP chemistry too. And I learned real quickly, I was not cut out to be a doctor. That just wasn't the way my mind worked, and blood and all that stuff. So we want to make sure that we're staying on track with what our goals were, or adjusting if we need to. And then we also need to, that fifth one is a service learning or work environment activity. And basically that's an opportunity for students to get their hands on to the job and find out, what does it look like in the real world? That could be an internship, a job shadow, it could be a mentorship, it could be a really interactive career fair where students are getting to see what those jobs look like in the real world. And so those 5 things at the bottom are what are the ICAP requirements. The first 4 have to be done or updated or reviewed annually. And that last one, the work-based learning component, has to be done once a year, or I'm sorry, once in their high school career. So just to kind of give a roadmap for where that leads. Now, our agency, the Department of Career Tech and the tech centers, are not responsible for ICAP. That is legislation that is implemented through the State Department of Ed. So I don't want to steal their thunder by any means, but just let you know that we are here. We've developed CareerGuide 1 to meet that workforce skills gap, 2 to help get students ready just for the real world, and then 3 to help meet the needs of the ICAP legislation. Are there any questions so far? We're going to cover some more information on how the system addresses ICAP throughout and how it might be relevant to you, but any questions so far? Feel free to just throw them in the chat at any time, but I'm not seeing anything yet. So I'll move over here, and this slide I use to kind of provide some understanding about what we do inside of OKCareerGuide. So once we take those assessments, once a student has taken those assessments, or an adult, it's open to any Oklahoman. And I totally encourage you to get on there and try it and check it out. In fact, that's just kind of good teaching practices, is to give it a test run before you have your students go through it. But if you get on there and you take the assessments and you learn that in fact you did want to become a teacher, what you're going to see is, 1, these colors show up all throughout the system, and 2, we talk about a couple different areas in terms of occupations. And what I found is I was a special ed math teacher and a special ed English teacher, so this was all foreign to me until I started learning about career development and career theory. So this top tier here are the career fields. There's the 6 career fields. Think of those as like giant job families, right? They have attributes, like industries, like sectors, that sort of thing that they work in. And then underneath that inside the state of Oklahoma has the 16 national career clusters. We're usually quite a bit more familiar with the fact that, okay, yeah, career clusters, I've heard of that before. And so these are also kind of grouped together. Again, that's based on like skills, like credentials, like education needed, that sort of a thing. Now, what's not pictured here is that underneath these 16 career clusters are 79 career pathways. So we've talked about career fields, we've talked about clusters, we've talked about pathways, and then underneath those 79 pathways are the occupations or the actual jobs. So the way I make sense of it is I think of it as like a big funnel, right? We've got the big job families up here at the top with the fields. Then we come down here to the career clusters, and then we get a little bit more specific into pathways, and then we get down to the very nitty gritty of like an actual job, such as a veterinarian, a graphic designer, that sort of a thing. So I bring that up just so when we're in the system, if you're using the system, if a student has a question and they're not feeling like something matches, you can always move up the funnel, right? If I'm looking at a specific career that doesn't make any, doesn't really connect with what I wanted to do, I can move back up to that pathway, right, and explore that. I also show this this chart just, or this graphic just as a way that a couple schools have done this really well. I don't know if anybody from Tahlequah is on with us today, but they've been knocking this career awareness out of the park for several years. They have taken, before ICAP was even a thing, before it was a requirement by any means, they had every student in their school was coming up with an individual plan of what they wanted to do. And ways that they continued to reinforce it is they took these little icons, they took these career cluster, or I think they actually took the career field icons, and they plastered them all over the school. So if I was going into a biology class, or if I was going into a health related class, I saw this little health related symbol, right? And if I was going into something that was related to IT, right? Computer apps, all that stuff, they would have this little Wi-Fi symbol. And so that was just plastered outside the school, or I'm sorry, outside the classrooms. And it just helped build that, that relevance, right? So ICAP or these individual plans weren't just something that were talked about once a year, but they were something that were brought up, multiple times. It was always in front of them. In addition to that, everybody in the school knew what it was. The teachers, the counselors, the administrators, everybody could ask a student, hey, tell me about your ICAP. Tell me about, why you're taking these classes. And the students knew about it. So when we think about culture and how to get students excited about careers and how to take the stuff that you all have just learned here at OEIP back into the classroom, it's about keeping the conversation going. And this is just such a low effort way to keep that reminder in front of them. So I always throw that out there. We have those icons, by the way, available for download. So if anybody is like, yeah, I want to do that, I can send you high-res copies of it. In addition to that, Nate has worked with our print shop and set up a thing where you can actually purchase them from our print shop at, like whatever the cost of printing it is. We don't make a profit by any means. And they come out as vinyl stickers, and they can, 4 inches or 6 inches or 8 inches or whatever, and you can use that to slap outside your school. So if you want more information on that, we can follow up with it. Now, I want to ask some questions. So if we can get you back into the chat. For those of you that work with students on the regular, think about seniors, okay? And let's kind of ignore 2020 for a moment, but think about a typical school year. Students are graduating in the spring. Let's go back a few months to March, April, May. How many seniors do you think say that their plan is to go to college? I'm not asking what do they actually do. What percentage of seniors say, oh, I can't wait for next year. I'm going to Rogers State. I'm going to OSU. I'm going to Murray, whatever it is. What percentage would you all guess? Throw that in the chat. I see a 90%, 75%. I'm always curious. Okay, 45, 6. Okay, it's kind of all over the place. Yeah. So what I typically hear more often than not is between the 60 to 90 range, and it really does kind of trend higher. And some of you have pushed up there in that 80-90% range in terms of what they say they're going to go to college. However, we know that the truth is, for the average for Oklahoma is 46% actually make it in August. Okay, so August following their graduation, only 46% actually make it into actually show up and darken the door. Now, and we know just from college enrollment that number cuts almost in half for those that make it to their sophomore year, right? So we have a group of seniors that say they're going to college, they don't actually show. And for those that actually do show, only about half of them continue to make it. So let me ask you this. Let's think about the percentage of people that actually graduate college, right? What percentage would you say is working in a field closely related to what they studied in college? Let's throw that in the chat. Got 25%, 5%, 13, okay. All right. So we're kind of in the neighborhood, if I average them out, somewhere in the neighborhood of 25 to 30%. And I would say you all have a smart group because it's about 27%. Of course, the study is from 2013 from Washington Post, but about 27% of students who graduate college have a job closely related to their major. So if we take a step back and we think about that 100% of seniors that are graduating, they had as far as we knew, their plan was to go to college. And we know that less than half of them make it that first year. And then we know that another half, or now we're down to a quarter, actually graduate. So we're talking about a really small percentage of folks. And then out of that small percentage of folks, how many of them are actually doing something that is related to what they were studying is a quarter of that. So a really small fraction of our students wound up doing what they thought they were going to do or worked towards doing. That right there is why we have ICAP. That right there is why it's so important that you take this knowledge that you just gained at OEIP and take it back to the classroom to expose them to the possibilities that they aren't aware of and help them begin to plan for their future. That little chart at the top, I wasn't trying to dog on Putnam City. The last presentation I did was for Putnam City North, and I actually graduated from Putnam City High School and I taught at Putnam City West, so I'm just a Putnam City guy. And so I thought I would talk to them about their numbers, and particularly this column right here shows that that's their sending rate. So they're 42, 45, and 36% sending rate. And this far column on the right was the amount of students that made it for the spring semester and fall. So it went up just a little bit, but not significantly. So I'm not just trying to dog on Putnam City there. So I bring that all up just to ask about what about everybody else? What are we doing to support them and take care of them? That's why we have OKCareerGuide. Also, throw in the chat, anybody who changed their major at least one time whenever they were in college? Who changed their major at least once? If you changed it multiple times, go ahead and throw in the chat how many times you changed your major. Whether it was none, once, 2 or 3 times. Okay, couple just one times. Whitney knew exactly what she wanted to do. Look at her. I was a 3. I changed mine 3 different times. Like I said, I was going to be a doctor. The most I've ever heard is 6 in a presentation. So if anybody can top that, by all means. I ask that because something I think is astonishing about this program which by the way, we call it OK Career Guide. It's used in states all across the United States. In Florida, it's called My Sunshine or something. Alabama, Career Planning System. Illinois has its own name, Nebraska. So it's used all over the states or all over the country. So we have lots of data to support some of these assertions. 60%, in this top right corner, 60% of their users who developed a well-defined plan didn't change their major. Right? Do y'all know what the college debt situation in America is right now? Last I checked, $1.6 trillion. That's more than the entire GDP of Texas, I think. 1.6 trillion, $1.7 trillion. How much of a dent in that could we make if we didn't change our majors? I took the victory lap at college. I graduated with like 145, 150 hours again, because those major changes. Man, that was like 20 to 30 extra hours I shouldn't have had to pay for, right? Something to think about. We know that students that have a well-defined plan, it increases their attendance, it increases their performance, their GPA, and increases retention. And something else I found really powerful is that 90% of users transition into some form of post-secondary education, right? So this isn't the, hey, everybody needs to go to college talk, but it's the, hey, everybody needs to have a plan talk, and preferably a plan A and a plan B, and for some of us, even a plan C. So that's why we're doing what we're doing. Just to let you know, as far as our entire system, Nate's been on the call. We do have a pre-K through 5 portion, a pre-K through 5th grade portion called Galaxy. Nate is our go-to expert on that, and he provided a training this morning for it. So if any of you have connections to elementary schools or elementary counselors or admin, and they're looking for ways to implement career awareness, it's a really fantastic program that asks really age-appropriate questions like, what is work? Why do people go to work? Where do people go to work? What kind of skills do they need for work? And it's all about just exploring the options, right? And getting those questions going at an earlier age. OK Career Guide picks up at 6th grade, and it carries through adult. So it's available for anybody to use, and your students can certainly use it beyond high school. Just a little bit to toot our own horn. It has grown quite substantially since we launched it in the fall of 2015. So we're almost to 5 years now. We've got over 300,000 users on the system, and we've had over 1 million logins, meaning people are coming back to the system multiple times. As you can see over here on the left, it has a responsive design. So students can use it on the cell phone, on tablets, and of course on computers as well. So access to technology, we've tried to remove as much of that barrier as possible. Now let's jump in and take a look at what some of the system looks like. I've mentioned that we have these 3 interest assessments, or these 3 surveys. They appear here in the middle of the screen as the blue boxes here. The first one is the interest assessment. What am I interested in doing when I grow up, right? The second one is the skills confidence. What do I think I could do right now? What do I think I could really tackle if I had to do it today? And the third one is the work values. So that is what are the type of things that are important to you that are kind of not tangible? So things like creativity, independence, security, relationships with the coworkers, that sort of a thing. I usually ask my teachers that I'm training, I ask them what they think the #1 work value is going to be. If you have any guesses, you can throw that into the chat, what you think the most high-ranking work value for high schoolers. I've never heard it. That's interesting. Okay. I'll tell you, the answer that I get the most is money, right? Is salary or the financial aspect of it. And I'll tell you, if you've used OK Career Guide with students, the first thing they do after seeing a job is they go, look, how much does it make? You know, but surprisingly, across the entire state, coworkers is the #1 work value. They want to have friendly relationships. They want to have good relationships with their coworkers. Just kind of speaks to how social little creatures we're developing when we're working with them. So Next, I want to show you, my watch is telling me to stand up. I'm like, go away. So this is our homepage whenever you first log in. On the right-hand side, what we have is kind of like a to-do list, right? Each one of these are interactive links that take us to where we need to go inside the system. And they're just little suggestions, little nudges. Hey, have you built a resume? Hey, have you explored, your options after high school and that kind of thing? Just little nudges. And in the middle, obviously the assessments. And on the left is this kind of like left-hand navigation, kind of step-by-step, if I want to explore occupations, majors, education. We'll take a look at that here shortly when we dive into the system. We won't spend a ton of time on it, but I just kind of want to show you what's available. Here we're looking at a specific job occupation, right? So we're looking at graphic designers. And there's so much. This is where some people kind of get lost because there's so much information in terms of exploring jobs, exploring the education required for those jobs, all that sort of thing. Again, we'll expand a little bit more on this here shortly when we get into the system, but I just kind of wanted you to get an overview of it here. The next thing is you can go in there and create goals and track your progress on those goals. So if we're thinking back through the lens of ICAP, we've got take assessments, do the exploration portion, write some goals, right? So here we're writing what our goals are. Maybe it's exploration. I want to take a tour of a welding program. Or maybe I actually want to do, maybe I want to do an internship or something like that. I can write those goals in here. And again, we're thinking post-secondary related. What's after high school? That third component would be to come up with this customized education plan. What classes am I going to take that are reflective of my interest? Now, not all schools use this, but it is part of ICAP. So you've got to do it in some way, some form or fashion. And you all don't need to necessarily, I saw a lot of ones when I asked what your familiarity with ICAP was. You all don't necessarily have to worry too much about that. Someone at your school, your principals, your counselors probably have some handle on where this is going. So you don't have to worry too much about it. Just want you to know it's available. Students can also search for businesses, search for job opportunities and work-based learning opportunities. Here we're looking at an internship available. This one would be particularly interesting to Rumble. It's about a broadcast intern, right? I get, where is this located? What's a description? What would I be doing if I did this internship? How do I apply for it? Why is it related to what I'm wanting to do? So I can see these related occupations. And so there's lots of businesses in there and opportunities for them to explore. And again, connect this knowledge to the real world. That's something that transfer of knowledge is huge. Just briefly, there is an ICAP report, an ICAP component of it that tracks all their progress. And then it kind of spits out into this report right here, where I can see exactly what I've done in the system. It's time-stamped, and I can even sign off on it as a student, as an administrator, and as a parent as well. So there is a parent portal to the system as well, but we're not gonna focus too much on that. Now, I mentioned the Connect2Business part, just to expand a little bit more on what that is. The whole idea of Connect2Business. So Connect2Business is this idea that if you go into OKCareerGuide and you learn everything about yourself, you know what you want to do, you know how to get the education and skills required to do that job. Connect2Business is designed to connect you with those employers that are looking for that specific, for those occupations. It's meant to be like the seamless platform that allows educators and students to connect with businesses. It's really kind of like that introduction. Businesses can post full-time, part-time job opportunities, internships, apprenticeships, job shadows. All that can be posted in the system for students to take advantage of. In addition to that, it just helps build the knowledge base, right? So I was really fortunate to get to go on OEIP in person last year at Northeast Tech, and we got to go up to Grove one day. I've been going to Grand Lake my whole life. I had no idea that there were international aerospace manufacturers in Grove, Oklahoma. I kid you not. Some of you may know, but I kid you not. And if you were a high school student, you'd have no idea. It's just a big white sheet metal building. They have no idea what goes on inside there. But if we can get that knowledge base to them now, hey, right down the street or nearby. There's lots of small towns up there, right? Right down the street, maybe you're in Wyandotte. You can go work for an international aerospace manufacturer. And I think at that time they were hiring folks that just fresh out of high school. They wanted them fresh out of high school, and they were paying them good money to come straight out of high school. So that's the heart behind Connect2Business, is getting students to engage and build that knowledge base and start that process now. Just a short list of some of the businesses we have on there currently. We're sitting at 89 businesses right now. My goal is to have at least 100 by the time we get to August. Ideally, since we're talking about a statewide system, we'd have hundreds. So it's free for businesses. And if you have any connections with businesses, we'd be glad to get them on. But we have businesses from across the state on there, so I encourage you to check it out. If you happen to be a career tech teacher and you have your advisory board or advisory committee, this is a great opportunity to kind of showcase them and get them again in front of your students. And as I mentioned, you know, if students don't have a chance to connect with these places, then they just don't know what's going on. Ditchwich is a great example. They're a huge company in Perry, Oklahoma. All I knew is they built big machines, right? I had no idea to think that they had, I didn't think about it. They have marketing, right? They have IT stuff, back of the house stuff. This example of Carly, she was a student that wanted to go to OSU for marketing, and she got to do an internship at Ditchwich and discover, yeah, she really liked it. And she didn't have to waste 3 or 4 years in college spending $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 to learn this isn't something I really wanted to do. She got that experience now. So I've talked a lot about what's available in the system. I want to make sure that you know that you have resources available to support you. If you do decide to implement this, there is a step-by-step curriculum. It's mapped out, meaning it follows the career awareness process very closely in terms of what research and theory says this should look like. It's tied to the American School Counseling Association as well as the Career Development Association. So it's tied to objectives. It is scripted out. It is as easy as it could be. I wish this was available when I was a SPED teacher. When I transitioned into adult basic education, I took it right into the classroom and we used it. It was so easy and usable. In addition to this Direct Your Future, we also have for download on the CTU platform. I can explain more about that later. But Nate, who's been on the call, he has developed ICAP specific assignments and checklists. So for students that are wanting to know, what do I do inside the system to cover career awareness or to cover ICAP, we've got those available for download. Anyone can access them. If we're trying to figure out, what are the definitions? What is work-based learning? What's the difference between an internship and an apprenticeship? Nate has also worked with our creative services folks to develop a toolkit to identify those differences, as well as look at timetables and timelines to incorporate, when should I have career fairs? When should I do guest speakers? When should we look at field trips and tours and stuff like that? It's all listed out there and available for you. You don't have to log in. You don't have to have a username or password. It's just ctu.org, and you scroll down and you get career and academic connections. If you want more help on that, I'd be glad to do that with you later. And I mentioned those icons are available there as well earlier. I know that you're at the end of several days of information. And so your brain only has so much room. And I appreciate you sticking it out as long as you have. We have created several videos to be helpful. So if you go back and it's August or September, or God knows when we'll be back in the classroom, and you're trying to implement some of this stuff and you're like, oh, AJ talked about this, but I don't remember how to do it. We've got lots of videos and helpful tutorials available for you on YouTube. We don't have enough subscribers yet to have a really unique link. I can't just tell you youtube.com OKCareer, but if you search for OKCareerGuide, you should find it and be able to get there. And if you subscribe, we get enough subscribers, then we can have that nifty little link. So one other resource we have available for you is we have these posters. And I bring this up because, again, if I think back to the schools that are doing career awareness and career development really well, they have this stuff everywhere. Earlier in the year, I was in Sand Springs and I was talking with them about the internships that they're developing. And as I'm walking to the meeting room with the administrators, every corner I turned was one of these 3 posters. I mean, it was everywhere in their school. And if you would like some, let me know. I have like 1,500 of each of them in my office in Stillwater, just taking up space. So if you would like a handful of posters, shoot me an email, and I'd be glad to find a way to get those to you one way or another. If you've got new teachers in the building, we got to cover up those walls. We don't want to be bland or boring. So in terms of the support that you have available, I wanted to bring up our information again. And then just so if you need to write down my email address, or Toya's or Nate's, it's just our name, aj.crowell@careertech.ok.gov. Because we're a state agency, it has to be 74 letters long for some reason. But you're welcome to copy that down. And then just a reminder of that client engagement team that's available. There's been times when I've been in a training and someone has asked a question that I didn't know how to answer. It's like, let's just get them on the phone. And we call them right then and there. They're incredibly helpful. I want to pause since we're at 3 o'clock now. And let you know that we do have upcoming webinars and trainings. You're welcome to sign up for. Mentioned YouTube, Facebook. Questions. Do you have any questions so far? Is there anything specific? I said I'd dive into the website, but we're at 3 o'clock. So I want to ask you if there's any specific things you'd like to see rather than take up another 15 minutes of your time. So if you do have anything specific, feel free to unmute yourself or throw it in the chat.
OKCareerGuide is a really good program, has been around in one form or another for what now, 25, 30, whatever years. There's a couple other opportunities that are available for schools to utilize the ICAP program for. But the nice thing about OKCareerGuide is that the base is already there. It's just been tweaked, actually maybe sometimes added a new 4-letter word in places, because it's what VOTEC has been doing for years. But now the public schools are going to be biting into it also in all the classes, not just in their career tech oriented classrooms. And my mouse is screwy, so I hope I can close this again.
No, that's a great point. I remember, so I sometimes share that Nate Brubaker was actually my my homeroom teacher, and in high school, at the end of high school, and I remember doing my little career wheel in his class that came from Career Tech. So yeah, Career Tech has always provided something like this. I don't think we've ever seen quite the widespread adoption as CareerGuide. I mean, 300,000 people using the system is just beyond anything we could have expected.
And the ability for parents, Joe Blow off the street, anyone to utilize it for free. You know, you don't have to pay for it. You don't have to be at a school to do it, be a student. If a parent sees their child working with it, they can get on and make their own resumes with all the various fonts and, you know, plug and play information in there, and then it's saved forever. Again, it's something that's been there. I said 25, 30 years, heck. Been longer than that because I've been in this business that long. So yeah, but some of these new ads are really nice.
Well, thank you for saying that. I appreciate it. And yeah, you definitely sound like you've been in the system. If anybody wants to give it a shot at a different time, you're welcome to jump on there and just use the username and password is just sample student, all one word, all lowercase. And then if I was back in the classroom and I was using this, I'd want my own fake account. So if you want to create your own fake student account, by all means do that. Just make sure that you set your school as our training environment so you're not messing up any reports. I'm seeing in the chat, my freshmen were required last year to get through so far. Yeah. So this freshman that just finished, they were the first year to be required to work on ICAP, and OKCareerGuide is one of the 2 state platforms. Let's see, thank you for the feedback. Yeah, absolutely. The cost of OKCareerGuide, yeah, it's free for anybody to use. If that's what you mean, Gina, it's free for anyone to use. Whether that's your students, or that brother-in-law who needs to move out and get his own job, you know, or that 30-year-old who came back home after college and it's time for them to get something really going on. What is the fee for the upload of student information? Okay, that is a great question. If you want to connect OKCareerGuide with your student information system through a program called Clever, I don't know that there's a set cost. It just kind of depends on the size of the district. So it's free for anyone to use OKCareerGuide. However, if you want to have the system talk with your student information system to where you don't have to create user logins or anything like that, they're just magically in the system. But I know it's relatively cheap. I know more public schools, so a pretty large district, paid $1,300. $1,300. We spend more on that to send someone to a conference. So I know that a lot of schools should be able to find something to make that work. I think it was $600 for Sand Springs to do it. And again, they're not a small district. Any other questions or comments or things that you want to see? People are always so uncomfortable with silence. I was a special ed teacher. I just let that question hang. Okay. Well, it looks good. I know it's a lot of information to take in. I really encourage you to give it a shot, log in, take one of the tests, one of the assessments, and just find out how much it relates to what you're interested in. Explore a couple occupations, and just get a little bit more familiar with the program. We're always available to help if you have any questions. And I really appreciate you sitting through. I know we made it the home stretch.
Gotta unmute myself for you to hear me. Thank you so much to AJ. You've provided a huge amount of useful information. I encourage each of you to reach out to AJ for more information on how to make use of these free tools in your classroom.